it tickled my soul a little bit to see the guy get a little slapped around.
Just I support ICE is a violence-worthy statement?
It is.
And by the time they're on a college campus, they're blowing the brains out of podcasters who come to speak peacefully at their campus.
That's a stretch. But
we're seeing a bit of. It's really not a. It's. Do you think
then
it's a
why
stretch?
wouldn't we address the root problem? This was a social consequence.
Violence is not a social consequence.
Violence is not a social consequence. That's a crime.
Okay, we have two different cases of violence.
You're an insane person. You don't get to hit somebody. And this kid can have charges pressed against him. You don't
and
get to
I could
hit
say the
somebody
same thing
because you're on
about you
camera.
being insane for thinking that ICE is a justified organization.
Are people really cheering on political violence, even against minors? It's kind of insane that we even have to ask this question, but apparently we do, because millions of left-leaning Americans, including stars like streamer Hassan Piker, are publicly gloating and celebrating across social media after a video went viral showing a student, a high school boy, getting punched for simply having a sign indicating he supports ICE.
We support ICE and law enforcement. I support ICE.
That's crazy, bro.
I don't know what's crazy about this.
Yeah, I'm going to punch you.
You're gonna punch me?
Yes.
And you're gonna get in trouble for that.
Okay.
Here's how some unhinged viral tweets describe this incident. Just wonderful. An American hero. Beast mode wokeism. That's right. Millions of people across this country celebrated and cheered after a teenager was physically assaulted simply for expressing a political opinion that, whether you agree with it or not, whether you support ICE or not, is absolutely his right to express as an American. Grown adults cheering on this kind of violence is objectively evil and is obviously going to lead to more young people acting out in uncivilized and disturbing manners like this to try to get attention from their favorite streamer or to go viral the way this guy did. And it all sends the exact opposite message that we should be trying to instill in our young people, that this is a country where we settle our differences through ballots, not bullets, through arguments, not assault, through democracy and elections, not attacking people. You also really can't remove this story from the context of rising political violence in America, whether it's the assassination of Charlie Kirk or the horrifying murder of multiple state lawmakers from the Democratic Party in Minnesota, especially when public polling shows increased support and justification for political assassinations among voters from both political parties. We're at a crossroads, and it's much bigger than one foolish teenager throwing a punch that he shouldn't have. Either we're going to remain a civilized free country and settle our differences democratically, or we're going to descend into violence, chaos, and eventually, maybe, civil war. That's just my take, though, and the debate is only just beginning. Joining me to discuss all of this, we've got the left-wing YouTuber and influencer Loren Piretra and the right-wing political commentator and YouTuber Blaire White. Let's get into it. Loren, I see you smiling. Give us your take on this.
So listen, I don't support political violence, and
But
I also, I at a certain scale, I do not support political violence, but I do understand why people were rejoicing because
small scale.
What?
Just a small scale.
Just a small like I think.
So if someone smacks you for what you say today, are you going to be okay with that?
Let's let Loren just give her view, and then we can discuss.
It tickled my soul a little bit to see the guy get a little slapped around. At the end of the day, no one was really harmed.
Slapped on the internet, and I say it tickles my soul. Just deal with that, I guess, right?
What was that part? I couldn't hear.
So if I ever see you get slapped for what you say today or otherwise, then I'll get
I'm not
that
running
tickles
around
my
saying
soul.
that people deserve to be put in cages and that we should be kidnapping our neighbors off the street. If I was, I'd probably deserve to get slapped around a little bit.
Even a minor?
Yeah,
even a high schooler?
totally what
It
the
was
kid
two
was saying.
minors.
That
I think
doesn't
the
really-
punch was wrong, but per my morals. But I completely understand why it happened and the applause, and can't say I would have acted any differently if I was a child and another child was saying some things that were really terrible.
Just I support ICE is a violence-worthy statement?
It is.
I guess the problem is, if you have even like a mid IQ, you understand that any political take can be perceived as something that's morally reprehensible or bad or worthy of someone getting slapped. So literally, just the fact that you just said this right now someone could say, well, that violates what I think is right or wrong. And they could see you next time you're in line at Starbucks or wherever. And I hope it never happens, obviously,
Thanks.
and slap you around a little bit. And I guess if you want to complain about it, just don't, because you just said it's okay for this kid to get punched. So,
I mean, listen, there's differences between having a difference in opinions and a belief that
and putting your
Latinos
hands
should be
on
getting
somebody. Yes. And
captured.
putting your hands on somebody. Yeah.
Well,
You shouldn't do that.
ICE
And
is
it's
inherently
crazy because
violent.
it's such a low bar. It's such a low bar, right? But it's a bar that, you know, the people on the left, they just consistently cannot meet it. It's the same thing with Charlie Kirk. It's the same thing with
I'll-
any example like
Well, let's
this.
stay on this because
So
I
I'll
do
go
want
on
to talk
Charlie
about
Kirk for a
Charlie, but
second.
let's stay. Well, hang on. I actually would like to
Okay.
stay on this. So, can I give you an example, Lauren? So if you were in a public school and a student was protesting in favor of abortion rights, right? Like a pro-choice student, because I forgive my
Sure.
assumption. I'm gonna make the assumption
Go
you're
for it.
pro-choice. A student was protesting in favor of abortion rights, and another student who's pro-life views that as a violent belief. I don't want to say whether it's true or
As
false, but
killing
their
babies.
belief is that you're supporting violence. Is it then okay to just go assault them, like beat the shit out of them? Is that the bar? If you find someone's belief violent, you can just physically assault them.
No, of course not. But I'm not saying I support political violence. There are people whose views I fundamentally disagree with, and I don't want to see violent acts taken out on them. And forgive me, I haven't seen the video. My assumption or understanding of the situation is he got like a little slapped around and that like nobody was greatly injured and it was more of a off, act right kind of thing. And I do think,
You don't get to say fuck off, act right in a violent way. Acting right is your perception. You have a perception of what the correct belief is. And the difference between us all killing each other is being able to say, I have this perception of right and wrong, you have this other one. And because you just as much as I do think that mine is correct, we probably shouldn't put hands on each other. It's such a simple, like bottom of the barrel, lowest bar to hold. And it's so impossible for leftists in general to hold that. It's actually really scary.
listen, I hear the kid was disciplined appropriately. Nobody was really hurt. Political violence, yes, absolutely not right.
Right, but you see how
Even
there's
for
like
people
a
I fundamentally
scale to
disagree
things?
with.
There's like a scale of just like a slap or a punch in a school between kids and like someone getting their brains blown out like Charlie Kirk. There's like a scale. And so usually if you want to avoid all of it, the worst of it, you stop it at just keep your hands to yourself. Like the
Where
stuff we were taught in like kindergarten.
Sure. And where would we place ICE's violence on that scale of kidnapping people, beating the shit out of them, taking pregnant women into internment camps and restricting them from drinking water, getting food and basic care? Do we consider that violent too?
It would depend on isolated cases, and you'd have to examine each case and make a moral judgment on that. You certainly can't extrapolate that to thousands of ICE agents across the country in every action, and trying to put an umbrella on it is actually how violence happens. When you put an umbrella over the entire ICE organization is bad, and that's the perception that this kid clearly had who took the swing, then it doesn't matter that the person who was saying they could support ICE could probably point to countless incidents of an ICE agent saving a child from a pedophile or saving someone from having a crime committed against them or getting rid of drug dealers. So you could make the case either way, which is why you shouldn't put your hands on each other over stuff like this, because we could go tit for tat over this ICE agent did this to this person and it was bad. Okay, well, this ICE agent saved this child from a family of traffickers. This is good. So in general, you just don't put your hands on each other.
It's funny how violence is never the answer when it's like the most micro situation, when we're looking at one kid in some
It's
school
not in big
somewhere.
ones either. We
One
just
kid in
mentioned
one
Charlie
school
Kirk.
somewhere where we have
Let's let Lauren
hundreds
respond.
of thousands of people. We have over 75,000 people in detention centers right now. The data shows us that more than 3/4 of them, no violent offenses at all. We have over
You guys
200
let in
instances
10
of
million
American
plus
citizens
illegal
being detained.
immigrants. The
We
fact
had
that
a
there's only
2-year-old. We had a
75K.
Sorry,
2-year-old in prison.
let's let
That
Lauren
feels
make her
a little
point.
bit more violent than a chubby kid slapping his classmate around. I think that's the real violence that we should be outraged at. And yes, we can agree that yes, political violence bad, but worse is what's happening at a large scale here. And there are numbers. And I would challenge you to name any statistical information that shows that ICE is actually doing anything positive, because it's costing our country hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're putting people in prison when we could be putting people through school. We could be providing universal health care. We could actually be enhancing and enriching the lives of all American citizens. Instead, we're choosing to fund a war on terror on our Latino neighbors for no reason other than because
No one is raging a war on Latinos. That's absolutely ridiculous. We're trying to get rid of illegal immigrants. And I know you guys have an issue with being able to differentiate between a Latino and someone who's an illegal citizen, but there are two separate categories. And there's actually no reason to use the word Latino when referring to illegal immigrants. That's actually pretty racist, number one. Number two, you guys let in 10 plus million on the
who's
low
you
end.
guys?
On the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, the last administration, let in on the low end 10 million illegal immigrants. And so the idea that there's even only 75,000 people being detained right now is actually a problem. So it should be more. It should absolutely be more. And again,
they're snatching people from their immigration appointments.
To stay on the topic, to stay on the topic, though, because this is what you guys do to justify violence. You guys want to make it about ICE rather than a schism between two people and one was hit over politics. We can add a whole other segment about ICE, and that's fine. At the end of the day, this was two kids, both of which probably don't know shit about ICE. Let's just be real. But both of them were probably incredibly uninformed. They're both completely programmed by whatever, social media posts they saw that morning or what their school's general vibe is. Neither one of them know anything about ICE, so we don't need to even pretend like they do. One was hit over it, and that's the problem. So I think that on just a general principled level, if we could just say, and this is like the same debate I had last time I was on your channel with a leftist, Brad Polumbo, how they just had the hardest time being like, yeah, we shouldn't hit people over politics, moving on to the next segment. This could be the shortest segment, but instead it's like, well, maybe he was justified for hitting him because, ICE and detention center. All of that is a separate thing from what we're talking about, which is, should we be glorifying hitting people? And you can see how it's a bit of a slippery slope. They start slapping each other around in middle school, and by the time they're on a college campus, they're blowing the brains out of podcasters who come to speak peacefully at their campus.
That's a stretch, but
we're seeing a bit of. It's really not a.
Then why wouldn't we address the root problem?
If
we're talking about gun violence, which is a separate topic, then why won't we just address gun violence? Erica Kirk's been on a whirlwind media blitz.
To pretend
guys, sorry. I'm going to reclaim the floor here. Reclaim the floor here. No. Sorry, I'll come to you in a second because I do want to zoom out a little and talk about this.
What does this have to do with Erica Kirk? You guys are so
Let's
obsessed
not
with
go down
Let
Erica
me tell
Kirk.
you what it has to do.
Loren, I know you have lots of thoughts about Erica Kirk. We're not going to do that today.
Okay.
I wonder if we can.
It's irrelevant.
If we can separate this conversation from the underlying ICE debate, and it's really a question of how do we settle our differences as a society? And I wonder, Loren, obviously like a little punch or roughing someone up is different than shooting someone, but it is kind of a slippery slope because you can die from a punch if it's thrown hard enough and hits you in the right way. And then a punch can lead to a physical altercation where someone gets killed. It does kind of escalate. Can't we just solve all these differences through discussions, through lawsuits, through elections, through the peaceful process? Because I'm worried. I've seen polls as well that there's Republicans increasing support for the assassination of figures like Zohran Mamdani. So this started out as, I think, largely a left-wing phenomenon, the assassination culture, but it's spreading. And when you have people glorifying a minor being assaulted because they think he had stupid ideas, it just seems dangerous to me. And I would never want you just punched because of your pro-choice views. Do you not see how this does lead to a dangerous place? And then all of a sudden you have Charlie Kirk, getting shot, or figures like him, or a left-wing figure similar to him.
I do not think this kid punching or slapping or whatever went down at his high school is the pipeline into gun violence. No, I don't agree with that.
God.
And I think, again, what I will say, you said it's so hard for you leftists to say that, like, political violence, bad, full stop.
It is. You can't do
the
it right
Get the
now.
soundbite. But
You can't do it right
It only
now.
comes up when it's these micro examples of
No, it doesn't.
one-off circumstances. And free speech and viewpoints,
it's always a one-off.
although radically different than my own, free speech and viewpoints,
it's a one-off.
radically different than my own, do not protect you from social consequences. This was a social consequence.
Violence is not a social consequence.
Violence is not a social consequence. That's a crime.
Okay, we have two different cases of violence. We have the large-scale violence that's being enacted by the state across American citizens and other immigrants across the country. That's violent. And then we have one chubby kid slapping his classmate and that's what we want to focus
Right,
on,
it's
and that's the
always
outrage.
no,
Come
this
on,
is the
please.
thing, Brad. This is the thing, Brad. It's always a one-off for them. So, like, Charlie Kirk getting his brains out, it was a one-off. President Trump getting shot at multiple times, it was a one-off. This kid getting punched in the school, it was a
Those are
one-off.
gun
Everything
violence.
to them
Those
is
are
a
gun
one-off and a
violence.
one-off and a one-off.
Blaire, those are gun violence. We're talking about a slap across
Okay,
two
and it doesn't.
kids. I'll
First of
talk about
all,
gun violence, but we just got cut off from that topic. If we want to go there, let's
first of
talk about
all,
that one because that's a great one to unpack.
First of all, we're talking about violence in general. We just reacted to a clip that did not involve a gun. We're talking about violence in general. If you don't understand how violence without a gun can happen, and just like Brad says, can surround violence with guns, can lead to violence with guns, can escalate into violence with guns, and vice versa, then I don't really think you have an understanding of violence or you've ever been in a violent situation yourself, and I hope that you never are. But at the end of the day, what we're talking about is people who feel like hitting somebody, stabbing somebody, shooting somebody, whatever it is a justified reaction to a political stance or to themselves not being able to control their own emotions when they hear a political stance that they find offensive. And like I said, for everything that you could list that ICE is doing wrong, for every, separate situation that you could go through, someone could do the exact same thing on your end and justify hitting you or justify the kid that threw the punch getting punched. The only solution that holds a country together and actually stops what inevitably happens when words don't work anymore is to say we're purposefully making a stance to not go to the next level. And yet you're saying that I was just like putting out a tagline like it's so hard for you guys to, but it is hard for you guys to just say, yeah, we shouldn't hit each other. What's the next clip we should talk to about? Like, it really should be that simple. And yet you're sitting here trying to justify it. You're sitting here trying to justify one last thing. You're sitting here trying to justify why the kid who threw the punch was correct because ICE did this and ICE did that. So you're going into the justification defending the kid when you should just say we shouldn't hit each other over political beliefs, because you could make it the same justification for hitting someone like you over your political beliefs.
My political beliefs are that people should have dignified lives. That's not something that anyone's really going to punish me over.
You can put as many.
No, it's
you
not.
can put
It's
as many.
totally relevant.
No,
But
it
Loren,
is. Though.
abortion is a good example. Right?
You can
Some
put as
people
many
think
cute
you
words on
support
it
mass
as you
baby
want.
killing.
Okay,
right?
well,
So they could
people
view
don't
that as
understand the
violent.
difference between a fetus and a baby, and a
But that's
fetus.
a subjective opinion. This is
No,
all
that's
subjective
science-based,
opinions.
and I won't argue about
It's a
science with people who
subjective
believe in
opinion.
unicorns. So what
It's
I'll
a
bring it back to
subjective
is
opinion.
wasn't the kid. We're aligned. We're aligned that political violence bad, yes, but
No,
we're talking
we're
about
not.
one
No,
specific.
we're not.
Okay, then we're not.
No, we're not.
But
I don't think you even hear
was this
yourself.
kid,
No, we're
was
not.
this kid not wearing a chesty GoPro going around provoking people, being like, fight me and shit?
You don't get to hit people
he got
because
slapped.
you're on camera. You don't get to hit people because you're being filmed. Are you insane?
If you're going around provoking people, being like,
you're an
you should
insane
be
person.
blah, blah,
You're
blah,
an
and then you get
insane person.
slapped?
I'm so sorry to say. I'm
All
so
right,
sorry to say. We were all nice
can't
and
even
peaceful
hear,
for the
but
save
okay,
after
sure.
discussion. You're an
Okay.
insane person. You don't get to hit somebody. And this kid can have charges pressed
And
against him. You don't get to
I could
hit
say the
somebody
same thing
because you're on
about you
camera.
being insane for thinking that ICE is a justified organization and not a bunch of criminal masked militia running around because they're drunk on power and a bunch of fucking losers from their high school who've never felt alive before this. So they're
okay. And my opinion is that people who can't hear a dissenting political opinion and justify violence in reaction to it are fucking losers. Those are fucking losers to me.
And I said that violence is bad,
people who
period. So keep digging if you want, but next.
No one's digging. No one's digging. You could have said
All right,
next.
guys,
We could have said, yeah, hitting people is wrong and move on.
I did
but you're
from
the
the
one
beginning. Roll the clip back.
No, you went into justification.
Thanks so much for tuning into this segment. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more debates with big name political influencers, and hit the like button and let me know what you thought about this conversation in the comments below.